Hello everyone, my name is Zheyan Liu, and my project is about the cluster analysis of the help country data. First, let me introduce the objective and data. The dataset is from Help International. It is an NGO that is committed to fighting poverty and providing people with the backward countries with the basic needs. And my job is to help categorize the countries using some economic and health factors that can determine the overall development of the country. And these results can help determine which countries are in the direst need of aid. Then let me introduce the data. The dataset contains 167 unique countries and 10 variables, which include some of the health factors, such as the child mortality, health, which is the total health spending per capita, income, and the total fertility, and also some of the economic factors, such as the imports, exports, inflation, and GDP per person. Then comes the EDA part. So here we have 10 variables now, and I plot a heat plot to see if there are some correlation between each variables, and I discovered that there are higher correlation between imports and exports, and the life expectancy and child mortality, also the income and the GDP per person. After EDA, I use some method to do the cluster. So before clustering, I used the min-max scalar to standardize the data because we needed each variable to be in the same range. Then I use my first method, which is k-means clustering. I use the elbow method to determine the number of clusters. So based on this elbow plot, we can see that it's pretty clear that we should set the number of clusters to 3. For the hierarchical clustering, I plot the dendrogram, and based on this dendrogram, it's also very clear we can set the number of clusters to 3 as well. Then I use another cluster method called spectral clustering. It is a technique with roots in the graph theory. Its approach is to identify the communities of the nodes in a graph based on the edges connecting them. This method is pretty flexible and allows us to cluster non-graph data as well. The spectral clustering uses information from the eigenvalues, also called the spectrum, of the matrix from the dataset. In this project, I will use the nearest neighbor method for the affinity graph. If you want to know more about this spectral clustering, it's actually presented in the team presentation. You can find the slides for it under one of the coursework folders. So eigengap heuristic is one of the best way to determine the number of speakers in the spectral clustering. Basically, it just listed all the eigenvalues of different dimensions. You can see the plot here. And also, it will just then calculate the gap between these eigenvalues, and the one with the biggest gap are the best clusters. So I choose 3 in this project because it will give us a simpler model. Also, what I did is PCA. I used PCA to make 10 variables into 3 components for better visualization and modeling. And these 3 components takes about 81% of the explained variance. Then I will use the spectral clustering on the original data, and I will also do this on the data after PCA, and will compare the difference between them. After building these models, I use 2 matrices called a Silhouette score and Davis-Bowling score to compare the performance of these models. You can see here. If you want to know more about these 2 scores, I will just share a link down below this video. Based on these 2 scores, you can see that the spectral clustering after PCA have the highest score. So I'll just all my results after this were based on this method. After building the models, here comes the final results. First, there is the PCA results. You can look at the table in the left, which is how each variables contributes to different principal components. And I will just do some interpretation based on these coefficients. So the first component 1, it means the developed country with low child mortality, fertility, and high lifespan. because it has the high life expectancy and the GDP per person. And it also has a low child mortality and fertility. The component 2 is the country with the good economy. It has high exports, imports, income, and GDP per person. And the component 3 is the country that emphasize the health spendings, and that they have the high health spending per capita and also low import exports. Then here is the cluster results. This is the spectral clustering of PCA data. So you can see in this cube, each dimension is a principal component. You can also see that each principles, each cluster, they are clearly very separated. And here I just listed all the cluster samples. And then here is some quick summary. And so the cluster 1, I think it means the developing and underdeveloped country with poor economy and low health spendings. Here are some example countries such as Cambodia, China, Turkey, and Vietnam. And the cluster 2 is the extreme underdeveloped country with relative high health spendings, such as Afghanistan, Cameroon, Sudan, and Yemen. So the cluster 3 is the developed country, like Qatar, Switzerland, Germany, and the United States. So I think this model can help determine which countries are in need. Uh, I think that's all. Thank you for listening.